Have you ever sorted through your books, movies, or video games to find the best one? What if you could do that in code, quickly and easily? Well, that's what LINQ is all about. In this video, we're going to learn how LINQ can help to filter, sort, and analyze data. Let's start after hitting that like button. Now, LINQ is short for Language Integrated Query. Fancy name, right? But it's really just a way to work with the list of things like video games or books, and that super easily. Instead of writing long, boring loops to find stuff, LINQ lets us write tiny, simple commands. For example, let's say you want to find all your adventure games. With LINQ, you can just ask for them. But before we dive deep into the code, we have to clarify one more thing. Let's talk about Lambda expressions, because they are often used together with LINQ. Don't worry, they sound harder than they really are. A Lambda expression is just a shortcut to write tiny functions. Imagine you're making a quick list of your favorite games. Instead of writing a full sentence for each game, you just scribble the name, right? That's kind of what lambdas do. They're quick and to the point. The example here means, hey, I want the title of each game. And that's it. The G is just a way to name each game while we're looking at it. You could call it game, X, or even pizza. It doesn't really matter. So again, a lambda expression is a concise way to represent an anonymous method in C#. It is commonly used in LINQ to specify how to handle each item in a collection. On the left side, we have the parameters like X, book, or game, and on the right side then, the expression. So what do we want to do with that? Again, in this example here, we want to get all adventure games. Please note that the where function of this example here is part of LINQ, and the best part is that everything is already built into .NET, so you don't need to install anything extra. So I hope you're not too confused now. Everything becomes clear when we write some code next. By the way, I've got a free cheat sheet about LINQ. Just check out the link in the video description to download the PDF and also the complete source code of this project here. All right, so what I've got here is a console application in Visual Studio. And so far, as you can see in the Solution Explorer, there's really not much into it. I've got a game class, so with the title, genre, release year, rating, and the price. And then in the program CS, I want to show you what LINQ can do. And what we need to use LINQ here first is a collection. So here I've got a list of some games. So this is the list that we are going to use for all our LINQ operations, all our LINQ methods, you name it. Now the first thing would be pretty simple stuff, right? Let's start with the easy stuff. And what would you do to retrieve all the games? Let's start with a for each loop so that you really see the difference. So let's say we want to have the titles of all the games. So just a list of strings, we call this all games. And then this is a new list of strings, of course. And again, we only want the titles. Now with the for each, as IntelliCode already suggests here, we would go through all the games, and then here we say all games add title, and then again, of course, we could use a for each to display them, only the titles. So here we say title in all games, and then here we just write console write line title. Let's run this real quick, and there they are, Legend of Zelda, and so on. Great. But what about LINQ now? For that, we use the select function. So instead of all that, we just say games and then select like that. And here you can already see game title to list. We can even make this a little bit simpler. So here now we just use var. In that case, we don't need the to list conversion, because here, as you can see, the select function projects each element of a sequence into a new form. It returns an IEnumerable, which can be turned into a list, right? But then you also see that in the parentheses, we've got the function here. And as stated or mentioned in the beginning, in the intro of this video, you can use a lambda expression for that. And this is exactly what we're going to do here, right? So this function now, in essence, goes through every game like a loop and then does the following: grabs every single game of our list, and then from that single game only the title. And then this will be put into our all games enumerable, our collection. You can turn this into a list if you want. And now let's just restart the application. And again, same result. So this is the first method we can use here with LINQ. You see, you're saving lots of lines of code. And when you know how this function works, then everything becomes way simpler, easier, and even faster. All right, next I want to filter games. And for that, let's use the where function of LINQ. So here now, what I want to do, and let me just uncomment this here also real quick. Here, what I want to do is I want to get all our role-playing games, RPG games. And here now, again, I use our collection, our list, the games, and then I use the where function. And as you can see here, it filters a sequence of values based on a predicate. Now, what does this mean? Well, again, we can use a Lambda expression. And here we can again say for every game, where the game, and now we've got a couple of options, of course. We can say we want to do something with the genre, with the release year, price, title, and so on. But let's just keep the idea that we want to filter everything by the RPG genre. So here now, we just say I want everything where the genre is an RPG. And now we can uncomment this back. And here, let's just say these are now our RPG games, like that. And with this function, again, filters a sequence of values based on a predicate on a certain condition. You could also say we got them already filtered. And as you can see, this does not work, but I made a little mistake here. What I actually want is, of course, not the title, but here now, game title, for instance, because this is good that this happened, because now we do not have a list of the strings, only the titles. Of course, here now we have a list of games again, right? So this is why we can now grab the title, for instance, of each game. We can run this again, and now we see Elden Ring in this example is our only RPG. Right? And the great thing with that is you got the complete object, so you can build anything you want with that. Just imagine you're working on the back end with Entity Framework, you want to grab some data, and then you can get the complete object of a game and put this into a DTO, for instance, data transfer object, check out the info card, and then you can do something with that, the complete object. So this is how you could filter something. Or just think of the front end. You're working with Blazor, for instance, and there you have a little search bar and you want to filter something. And then you can here, for instance, enter what the user entered in the form, right? So lots and lots of possibilities. And your best friend here is this where function of LINQ. All right, now I already told you with this where function, we can, in essence, already ask for conditions. But regarding conditions, there's also another function when you really want to check if there is a certain object or a certain objects, a list of objects in our big list of these objects that meet a certain condition. For that, we use the any function. So here now, let's say we want to check if there are any games that have been released after 2000, and let's call them modern games. I know it's a couple years ago, but let's just stick with that idea. So are there any modern games? So modern games exist. Could be something like games. Let me get some space here. Games. And now the any function. Now what's that? Determines whether a sequence contains any elements. All right. So this really means we can now put a condition there. So again, game, where any game release year, for instance, is greater than 2000. And now when we have a look again here, it now says determines whether any element of a sequence satisfies a condition. Again, we use a predicate. Again, this is a Lambda expression in that case, and the result is a Boolean value. As you can also see here, it returns true if the condition is met. One element is there. This is why we use the any function. It says here, true if the source sequence is not empty and at least one of its elements passes the test in the specified predicate. Otherwise, it's false. Now here then, we can just say console write line, and then, for instance, something like that. Are there any modern games? And then for the answer, we say modern games exist. Of course, proper answer is true or false, right? When you talk to someone and it's a yes/no question, you could also answer with true or false. And then in that case, are there any modern games? Yes, we got some. But now let's see, what about 2K 17 greater than 2K17. Still true. Oh yeah, I did not see Elden Ring. Now let's add 22. See, it's greater than, not greater equals, right? So now we expect false, and this works. So now this means that in this whole thing, there is no object that meets this condition here. And for that, we use the any function. Real quick, if you want to level up your skills with .NET and Blazor, now is the time to join the .NET Web Academy. You get over 40 hours of pure learning content. We cover things like clean architecture and CQRS. We dive really deep into all the new render modes of Blazor. You will learn how to publish your web applications with the help of GitHub Actions and Azure, and you get access to our community and the brand new Discord server with live collabs. I'm really looking forward to seeing you inside the academy. All right, now let's keep this here. I just uncomment everything because I want to give you the code, link in the video description below. So now the next thing would be sorting our games. All right, so now let's start with sorting the games by the release year, for instance. How would we do that? Well, again, var sorted by year, for instance. And here now, again, we say games. And we got something like order by, and also order by descending. Descending, this is just the other way around, right? But let's stick to order by for this example. And here now, again, a little lambda expression, G or game. And then here we say release year, and we don't need this as a list actually, like that. But we can display, of course, everything. So that's correct. And here now, console write line game title. And then maybe also the game release year. So let's change this a little, something like that. We have the game title using string interpolation, and then also the game release year, like that. All right, let's run this. And we see Tetris is the first one, 1984, and then Super Mario Brothers, and so on. Great, this works just fine. And now to just see the other way around, we got the descending method. Try this one more time. And no, it's the other way around, right? Elden Ring is the latest game in this example with release year 2022. Awesome. Again, when we have a look here at the tooltip, it says sorts the elements of a sequence in descending order according to a key. The key again, or the key selection, as it says here, is our predicate, our lambda expression, or our function, our lambda expression again. And then we get an I ordered enumerable back, and pretty much the same thing for our order by method. Here you see we sort the elements of a sequence in ascending order according to a key again. Great, so this is sorting. And the next thing, a bit more advanced, is aggregating data. So how would we do that? Let me just comment this out first. Now, aggregating means that, for instance, we want to get the average of something, or the max value, or the minimum value, maximum value, minimum value. And as you can see here, we've got the prices of our games and also a rating. So let's work with that. First, the price. Maybe would be interesting to see the average price of all our games, for instance. So let's try that here. For that, let's say average price, and then we say games, and then average. We've got an average function here in LINQ, and we can do this thing here, what IntelliCode suggests, or again, we say G or game, and then just the price. And again, with console write line, let me just copy that because I'm lazy. We can now say that the average game price is the following. Average price. Let's run this. And we see average game price is 41. Does this make sense? We've got 60, 50, 70, 10, and 15. Yep, 41. I think this could work. And now let's get the best game, the game with the maximum rating, for instance. So here, highest rating function is called max. So games max. You see there's also the other one, min, right? Max. In this case, not the price. Let's use the rating. And with that, we got the rating, but now I want the game. So now we also get the best game, right? With games. And now we could use the where function again, but with that we would get a list. So maybe there are more games with that rating. So what we can do, not sure if this is really correct, right? But we can use the first function. And here it says returns the first elements of a sequence. All right. So here now, exactly what IntelliCode suggests. We say, give me that game where the rating is the highest rating. And now we copy that. And here now we say best game is best game title with the rating. So best game rating like that. We run this thing and it says the best game is Elden Ring with 9.8. Is this correct? Looks like it. Yep. All right. And again, when we hover over the functions, you see the average function computes the average of a sequence of integer values that are obtained by invoking a transform function on each element of the input sequence. I think you get the idea. And the max value, this is way simpler, invokes a transform function on each element of a sequence and returns the maximum double value. Now, double and integer only because here our price is also an integer value. I mean, now say here the rating, then it says the double value, right? So you can enter any value you want. I know it's called price, but let's just try this. Then you see that the average rating is 9.28 or 9.28, all right? So this is aggregating data with LINQ. All right, now next up, let's talk about grouping, because we can also group games together. As you can see here, we've got different genres, for instance, so why not combining them and group them by the same genre? So how would you do that? Let's say we've got the games by group. And here now we say games group by, and now again we need a key here. And in this case, let's say I want the genre, and I don't want to turn this into a dictionary, because what do we get here? It returns an IEnumerable again with the iGrouping interface and the key and the source. So let's display that stuff now again with the for each, and I actually want not game here, it's a group that I want to access. And here now we can say console write line, and first let's get the genre maybe. So here now, and then let's get the genre first, group key. All right, so this is our genre, and then for each group I want the title. So another for each game in group this time is correct. And here I want the following, actually just the game title. All right, let's try that. And you see it here. We've got the genre Adventure, Legend of Zelda, genre Platformer, Super Mario Bros, RPG is Elden Ring, and so on. I know there's only one game per group, but let's just say Legend of Zelda is also an RPG. All right, now let's run this. Now we see RPG, and then Legend of Zelda, and Elden Ring. All right, so you really see that we got it grouped here. And again, let's have a quick look how this works. So first, we get an IEnumerable, a list if you want, with groups. A string is the key, and the value then in the end is the game. All right, here the same. We've got a group of strings and games, right? This combination. So here now we can access of this group every single object, which is the game in the end. And that's why we can access the title of the game. All right, that's grouping. Now the next thing I want to show you is chaining the functions, or chaining of the functions, because you do not need to run one function of LINQ and then get the result, do one other thing. You can add them, you can chain them. So for instance, let's say you want a budget game of a certain genre with a certain rating. So you can do all that in one query. Let's have a look. For instance, budget adventure game. So here now we can use our games list. And what I want to do is I want to use first the where function to filter this thing by adventure and also a certain price. All right, so let's just say we have a game where the game genre is RPG, and this is also new, right? Here I also want to say that the price is below or equal, let's say 50. Not really budget, right? Let's say 30. All right, this is one result, but now I can also add something else. I want to order this, order by game rating, let's say. Right, I want the best games on top, and then I already want to only get the title and the price. All right, so here again the select function, and here for every game, here let's use string interpolation again. Here what you want to do is I want to see the game title and then the game price, like that. Okay, so what do we get here? We get a list of strings in the end because this is the end result. And now, again, in a for each, we can just say in our games list, no, in our budget adventure games, let me rename this to games. All right, now here I write console write line and then just the game. Do you know what game we should see here? No game, because Legend of Zelda has a price of 60, so it's not really a budget game, right? But still, when we say 60 here, we should actually see Legend of Zelda. And we need to enter the right genre. Now we see Legend of Zelda. Great. But what about, you know, Elden Ring? I'll also set this to adventure. And this is now 50, currently in sale. So now we see Legend of Zelda and Elden Ring. All right. But what about the rating? Again, we got adventure, order by rating, ascending. So this means that we first get Zelda. This is totally correct, but I actually want it the other way. It's the other way around. So descending, so the highest is on top. Now we see Elden Ring and Legend of Zelda. And we can double check when we say G rating like that. Now we see Elden Ring costs just 50, rating is 9.8. So if you think Elden Ring is an adventure game, then maybe you should get Elden Ring because it's a better deal and maybe the better game, just in this example. Okay, the next thing I would like to dive into is pagination, because this is a question that comes up pretty often actually when you have a grid, for instance, in your front end and you want to use Entity Framework to get the data and then add a pagination function. How would you do that? Well, this is also, or can also be done with LINQ. And for that, there are two specific functions. So, you know, let's say paginated games. Here we can say games and then skip. So this means, as you can see here, it bypasses a specified number of elements. All right. And then take how much do we want next. In essence, here it says returns a specified number of contiguous elements from the start of a sequence. So we skip 2 and then only grab 2. So let's display these now for each game in paginated games, console write line, just see the title of this game. And as you can see, it's Elden Ring and Stardew Valley. And as we can see here, that's correct. We skipped these 2 and then only got these 2 here. What if we take 3? We get also Tetris. And now when we say we skip the first 3, Stardew Valley and Tetris. And how would you really implement pagination? Then this just means that you need a certain number, or you need the current page number, for instance. Then you also always want to display a certain number of elements on a certain page. So for instance, on page 1, you would skip nothing, so skip 0, take 3. All right, so you get the first 3 games, and then on page 2, you would then skip 3, right? Because you already displayed these 3, and then show the next 3, all right? Then on page 3, you would actually skip 6. Get the idea? So build your formula however you want to do it, and then you get pagination already implemented. But that's only one way of pagination. There are also other ways to implement that, so be careful here. But for LINQ, this is a great option. All right, so I think we are almost done with the most important topics here for or about LINQ. But there's one thing I didn't tell you before, and this is the syntax, because what we did here is we used the so-called method syntax, right? We are using all the methods, but there's also a query syntax that looks similar to SQL actually. So let me show you one example here. I'm not a big fan of that way. I love all the methods of LINQ, so this is why I pretty much always use them. But let's just have a look. So again, let's say we want to get all the adventure games. So now we say var adventure games, and you can try to do this with me, of course. Here we use the where function and then say, for instance, not the title, the genre is adventure. With that, we get all the adventure games. And this is the method syntax. Now let's have a look at the query syntax. Here, let's call this adventure games query. Looks like that. From G in games. All right, we say where G genre is adventure, almost adventure, we want to select G. All right. And now for each game and adventure games query, we want to get the title of the game. Let's try that. We run this. We see Legend of Zelda and Elden Ring. And without the query, same result. See the difference, right? So I think this is a bit more complicated. Maybe in some situations it's the better way. Maybe it's easier for you to understand. But again, I'm a really big fan of the where function in this case. Just to show you, there are different ways to do this. So when somebody is telling you something about the query syntax, or someone is speaking about LINQ and showing you this, now you know what he or she is talking about. All right, now let's uncomment this thing. And the last thing I would like to show you here in this little course about LINQ are some practical scenarios. For instance, one more example where you can chain the functions for, in this example, finding the cheapest game. Let's try that. So cheapest game would be games order by, and then game price. And here now, again, we can use the first function. So again, we're chaining something, right? Use this function here. And again, let me maybe copy something. Yeah, why not? With this console, right line. And in this case, it's cheapest game, title, price, and rating, like that. Run this. You see Tetris. This is correct. And another thing, maybe when you have a look at the genres now, in this case, we've got adventure twice. And maybe sometimes you also want to get a list of a certain property of all these objects in a list, but you don't want to see double values. How would you do that? Well, let's try that with a select function. For instance, we only want to get the genres of the complete list. Games select. And then here we say game genre. And not to list. When we do it like that, let's just try that, right? So for each game in genre, actually genre in genres, like that. All right, and now console, right line, give me just the genre. All right, when we run this now, we see adventure comes twice, right? Adventure, platformer, and then again adventure. And for this, let me just uncomment that. We got another function here, which is distinct, returns distinct elements from a sequence by using the default equality comparer to compare values. Well, for our string value here, this should work. And now you see adventure is mentioned only once. All right. Now there are, of course, even more functions to LINQ, but I think this is a great overview for beginners. If you liked it and want a little cheat sheet, again, check out the link in the video description. You also get this source code here that you just saw in this video. And if it helped you, I would really love to see you subscribing to my channel. It really does help and shows me that you care. Thank you very much for watching. Happy coding and take care. Bye-bye.